Hello everyone. Today I'm going to continue my series of videos on the TP-Link WR841N/ND. This is a version 9 router and using DD-WRT on this router. It's a very powerful tool. DD-WRT, if you don't know what it is a third-party firmware for this router and many other routers. I believe it's an open source project, and it basically turns this, basic routers into very powerful, configurable routers. Now, what we're going to do today is turn this beautiful router, the WR841N, into a 300N repeater bridge and Wi-Fi extender. Okay, and so, like I said, if you don't know what that is, I'm going to explain it to you here and give you an example. All right. Here's what this router is going to do. In this picture, this router is going to be the secondary in this network configuration. Now, why do you want a repeater bridge? Why do you want a Wi-Fi range extender? Well, several reasons. If you take this example, you see that you have one network here with the internet coming into a modem and then going to the primary router. Now, the primary router feeds feeds a computer, a laptop wirelessly, and a printer, and it's wired in as well. So that's great. But say you want a second network, you've got a second room in your house somewhere else, let's say on the other side of your house, and you don't want to run a cable all the way over there just so that you can connect a computer. And even if you did run a cable over there, you'd only have the ability to connect to one computer unless you bought another switch or router. So this allows you to connect these two separate network nodes together as one network. It extends this network over here. That's why I call it a bridge too, because it is a bridge between these two nodes. And what this secondary router will do, the one we're setting up today, it will also transmit the wireless signal over to this laptop, as well as allow you to connect 2 or 3 different computers at one time. So that's a plus. Now, the other thing it will do is it will extend your Wi-Fi signal. Let's say you didn't want to connect any of this stuff to it. You just wanted to take your Wi-Fi signal from somewhere in your house to another place. So say this part of the network, it was out in your garage, but you're getting a really weak signal in your garage because your Wi-Fi, your primary Wi-Fi router is on the other side of the house and far away. Well, if you set up the secondary router, say midway between where your primary router is and your garage, what it will do is it will take this signal and then boost it again to a full signal again. So say that it's 50 feet to the edge of your house, or 50 feet to your garage, and from your primary router to your garage. If you take the secondary router, the one we're configuring today, and put it in between those two, like just say 25 feet in between them, then it'll take the signal and pick it up at 25 feet, boost it again, and throw it out another 25 feet, which should give you a much stronger signal. What that also means is that you'll also have a faster connection to the router. I don't know if you've noticed or not, but the weaker your signal is to the router, the slower your connection to that router is going to be. I use this secondary router as a booster signal and a speed enhancer for my Roku. So I have my primary router in an office, and it's far away from the Roku, and the Roku doesn't, the Roku that I have is a streaming stick, so it's got a really small antenna. It doesn't have the greatest Wi-Fi antenna or Wi-Fi capability that way. Well, of course, you got a weak signal, you get a slow connection. You get a slow connection, you get low quality video. So what I did is put this secondary router near to the television that has that Roku, and now that Roku gets a really strong signal because it's really close to this router, and then this router connects it to the primary router, and they both talk together quite quickly. So it basically has boosted the speed of my Roku to stream video. Very happy with that solution. Okay, so that's a reason why you want an extender or a wireless bridge. Okay, so let's go back to this. So the other beauty about this is that these two things in one package are very handy. Number one, you can't, this router costs $19 delivered to your house. And it also has actually it'll have 5 ports on the back available to you to plug in any network device you want, like a printer or computer or whatever, right? You could even, if you had a Roku 3, plug the Roku 3 into the back of it. So, another great thing about this, and if you look on, if you go to our Amazon and you look at what they have here for range extenders, you'll see a range extender here from Netgear, $37, and it doesn't have a network port on it. Now here's one for $29, the TP-Link. I'm sure it's fine, but hey, for $19 you can put the DD-WRT into this router and have 5 ports out of the back and all this functionality this has, and the beauty of having a fully functional router doing the same thing that little device would be doing. Okay, one more thing too. You'll see that there's nothing here that's below $20. Nothing. Oh, here's a N. So that's probably a 150N router. Range extender, and it's refurbished. So, for $19, you're getting a heck of a deal. Now, here's another example. Now, the other thing is that this router, I know, has a 550 megahertz processor in it. That makes it a very powerful router. So, there's all the reasons why you want to do this, or all the reasons why you may want to do this. Next, we're going to go into configuring this to happen on this router. Now, the first thing you're going to need to do is hook your router this way. So, I have the router hooked into port 1 with a patch cable, and the patch cable comes with a router, so you should have that. And then I have that patch cable plugged into my laptop directly. So that's my configuration, and that is the only configuration that I say that you should have for doing this. Yes, you may be able to do it wirelessly, but you want to make sure you're working on the right router. I have 2 DD-WRT routers, and I don't want to mess up my primary by mistakenly configuring it instead of configuring this one. By doing this configuration right here, hardwired into my laptop, I can isolate it and make sure that I'm only working on that router. So let's go isolate it. Mine is already plugged in, and as you can see, I'm on Wi-Fi. So what I'm going to do is go back down here, and you see your network icon, or if you don't have a Wi-Fi, you'll have a network icon down here. Right click it, choose Open a Network Sharing Center, then go to Change Adapter Settings, and then go over here to Wireless Network Connection, and then we're just going to hit Disable. So that knocks us off the internet. It knocks me off my network, and next we're going to make sure that this is correctly configured, and this is my network connection to the router, and it's called Local Area Connection 2, and basically it's where the cable is connecting to my computer from the TP-Link router. So let's right click that, choose Properties, go to Internet Protocols version 4, TCP/IP v4, double click that, and I've got it all set to obtain the IP address automatically. Now, I suggest, for the sake of configuring this, that we go with using the following IP address. We're going to manually enter it in: 192.168.1.10. That's fine. And then we're going to go down to the next subnet mask, and it should auto-populate like that. The gateway is not all that important. We'll just leave it for now because it's really not necessary. So we'll hit OK, and we will come back here before the end of the video to reset these connections back to their default states. So at this point, we're now, if we hit Status, just right click it, choose Status, then go to Details, you'll see that we have that IP address. So we're ready to configure the router at this point. We're not connected to wireless, so there's no way that I'm going to, you're going to configure the wrong router. So we're going to go from here, minimize that. So, okay, let me open up a couple of windows here. All right, On the left window is a template that I've stored on my web server. I probably will post this up on the internet so that you have access to it, so you can just copy and paste the settings over, or at least have them for reference. And it's not a real router, it's a copy of the router on my web server. So let's go to the right side, and this is where we're going to be working on our router. Now I'm assuming you've already installed DD-WRT following my video on how to do so. I'll put the link for that at the end of this video. So I'm going to type in the IP address, and the default IP address for a DD-WRT install is 192.168.1.1. So do that. And if you've just installed it, it's going to ask you right away to change the username and password. I'm just going to use a really simple one. It's admin, and I'm going to use the admin as the password. Don't ever do this. Use a complex username and password, one that you'll remember. But I'm just going for it with admin for simplicity's sake. Now, where we want to go is the setup. And under setup, you'll see that it's a different looking screen than this side. Well, that's because this side has already been configured. So when this gets configured, all these options change. So the first thing I'm going to do here is choose to disable the connection type, because we're not going to be connecting to a WAN, or wide area network. That's the internet. We're not connecting to that. We're connecting to your primary router. So here I'm going to change the name of this, and I'm going to use that name, which is the TP-Link. And the reason you want to change the name is so that it's identifiable, so that when you go onto the router, you know which router you're on by looking at the name of it, or by looking at the status. So you notice that there is none of this configuration is available on the left-hand side window, because once you've changed this to disabled and applied the changes, then all these windows will change. This window will definitely change. So let's go down here, scroll down, and then you find we have the local IP address. Now we have to change that. Now if your primary router, let's go take a look here. All right. If your primary router is on something other than 1.1, say it's on 0.1 or 3.1 or whatever. If it's on something other than this, then this has to reflect it. So say it's 0.1 here, it should be 0.2 here. If it's 192.168.3.1 over here, then it should be 3.2 over here. And that should be reflected in your configuration as well over here. So once you got that IP address correct over here, then we can go on to the next level. This should say 255.255.255.0. That's the subnet mask. Leave those numbers alone. It should be auto-populated. If not, just put them in there. Next, the gateway. It's 192.168.1.1. So the IP address of your primary router is the gateway here. And same thing with local DNS. 192.168.1.1. So we're done with that. Next, we go to assign WAN port to switch. I'm going to check that off. You don't have to. That's an optional step. But what that does is it gives you an extra port on your router. If you look on the back of your router, you have these orange ports, and those are your LAN ports. And what it does, then you have your WAN port over here. And what it does is it takes the WAN port and turns it into one of these. So then in practicality, what you have is 5 LAN ports. So you can plug 5 LAN cables into the back of your range extender or repeater once you've got it all configured, and they will all allow access to your primary router network. So it's up to you whether you want to do that or not. Like I said, it's optional. It gives you a little bit more functionality. Then we scroll down to DHCP server, and you'll see over here that there is no DHCP server. Okay, but that's because we've changed this router. My template router has already been set to a bridge device. Once you set it to a bridge device, this disappears. But just in case, let's just choose disable on this side and scroll down to the bottom. Don't touch anything else. It's not necessary that you do. And you'll see here that there is the time settings. Now this is another optional thing. You don't have to set it. You can just leave it alone. But I'm just going to set it because I like to. So let's go here to US Central. Put that IP address in there. Again, if you want to use it, it may work for you. It may not work for you. Basically, it maintains time, but it's not really all that important. It's an optional setting. So once we're done all that, we're going to hit save. Don't know why it's doing that, but let's go back. Save. There we go. And it saved it. So at this point, we're going to hit, well, okay, it's asking me to put my password again. And so I'm going to do that again, admin. Make sure it's saved. And it is. All the settings are correct. Yep. I'm going to hit apply settings again. Now once you hit apply settings, what happens is that you change the IP address of the router to 2. At this point, you're really no longer on that router anymore. So, and you can see here that it's reestablishing the network down on my network icon. So I'm just going to go ahead and change the IP address up here to 2, because otherwise you are not going to be able to see this router anymore. So I'm going to go with that. Wait for this to establish its connection over here. And once it does, then I'll hit enter on my address bar. It's taking a good old time there. All right, so let's see what happens. Okay, so we get this, the status system information. Let's go back to setup. And as you can see, we're good. All the settings are still there. Just double check. And again, DHCP is still there. So let's go back. Next, we got to, basically this sets up your routing. So next we're going to go to wireless. And here we're going to have to change a few things. You see the wireless mode. So let's go back to my template over here. Wireless mode says client bridge routed. So we have to change that over here to client bridge routed. And then you notice again that it's different. Again, this changes once you set the wireless mode to a client bridge routed. Then that basically tells the router you're going to be using it as a bridge or a Wi-Fi extender. So I'm going to just hit apply settings here. And once this comes back, you'll see that it changed. See, it changed. Now you have auto DHCP and manual. Well, we want to set this to manual, which hard codes the gateway. So the gateway again is the same number. It's 192.168.1.1, which is your primary router's IP address. Next, we have the network mode. I'm just going to leave it all on the defaults. Then what we need to do here is change your wireless network name or SSID. So what this whole window here is doing is configuring the router, your WR841N, the one that you're setting to a repeater, to connect to your primary network. So basically what we're doing here is making sure that this router connects to this router. Okay, so whatever your SSID on your primary is, it has to be exactly the same right here. So let's go with primary router. And that's what we have there. And then hit, I mean, on the advanced settings, again, this is an optional thing. You just leave it alone. I'm going to hit advanced settings. And then I'm going to change the regulatory domain to United States. You can change it to whatever you want. I don't really know whether this makes a difference or not, but I'm just a little OCD about that. So I'm going to hit apply. And usually when you change the settings here, it takes a little bit to apply those settings. Now, one thing I want to tell you about is that if you play with these settings, you can actually increase your network speed, but that's up to you how you set them. I find that if you set this on wide HT40, at least in my environment, it seems to work better. But it's up to you. I'm just going to leave them there as the default settings, and I suggest that you do as well, so that you start off on what is known to work, and then you can play from there. So we're done with this. We've set the SSID that this router is going to connect to the primary router to. Then we have to add what they call a virtual interface. So we're going to click Add here, and you leave that alone. You can also leave this alone, or you can change it to whatever you want it to be. You can change it here and just call it I don't know, a bridge or whatever. But I'm just going to leave it for me, And what this name is the SSID name you're going to use to connect to this bridge or this router or Wi-Fi extender. Now, I'm leaving the SSID broadcast in there because I want it to broadcast so I can find it just by doing a scan on my Wi-Fi network. Advanced settings really doesn't matter. They're there, but don't play with them. Just leave them alone. So just showing you that. So at this point, we're going to hit Apply Settings again. And when you hit Apply Settings, it saves the settings. Now, the next step is putting in the passwords for these two networks so that you can connect to them, or this one can connect to the router and you can connect to this router using that. So we're going to go here to Wireless Security. Do that same thing here, Wireless Security. And you can see on this side, obviously it's different. So what you're going to do is you're going to change this to, I'm going to change it to WPA2 Personal, but what you need to change it to is to whatever this router is set to. Okay, so if this router is using WEP, and I don't recommend using WEP, but if it is, you set that setting here to WEP, right? So here's all the different options. But whatever your primary router is using for security mode, you have to match those settings over here exactly. Okay, so I'm going to match my settings exactly. I'm using a WPA2 and AES, and I'm going to put my password in here. And let me try this little something here. And I don't think that's going to work. But your password should be at least 8 characters long for WPA2. It even tells you here, 8 to 63 ASCII characters. The more the better. So let's unmask it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and that's what I'm using here for an example. So I'll just hit Apply Settings here, and we'll wait for that to take. And then on the secondary, now remember this setting here mirrors whatever you've got set on your primary network, right? So whatever your wireless settings are for your primary network, everything on the ATH0 should be the same on this range extender. Next, I'm going to use WPA Personal again, and it's up to you what you use, right? I like this, so I'm staying with that. And the WPA algorithms AES, so I'm staying with that again. And again, your password here, at least 8 characters long, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then hit Apply Settings again. Obviously, I'm not using 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 as my password. So I'm going to put my passwords in here and continue on after that to show you how this all works. All right, I put my WPA shared key, or my password, my wireless password, that corresponds with my primary router's wireless password. So it's basically the setup here is the same as you would be setting up if you were connecting to your primary router. So whatever your primary router's SSID and its password goes in here, and this section here will be connecting your TP-Link WR841N or /ND to your primary router, and that's what makes it talk to that router. Then down here is your configuration for the wireless connection to your range extender or your bridge, and it's going to be using, back to the basic settings, it's going to be using this as the SSID, the DD-WRT_VAP, and it's going to be using whatever you put here as the wireless security. So you're going to have to use those two parameters to connect to the actual range extender bridge. So Once you've done that, and you know what your password is for both of those things. Actually, you don't need to know the password for the primary one. Again, once you put it in there, it's set. This one you need to know to connect to the range extender. But anyway, we're done with that. I'll just hit apply settings here for kicks. And once you're done this, you have to verify that your router is actually on the internet. It's actually surfing. That's how you know your configuration is correct. If it's not correct, you're not going to get anything from it. So first thing to do is go to administration here, the administration tab, and go to commands. Okay, and in here you can do a couple of different things. First, you can ping your primary router, which in this case is 192.168.1.1. So just type in ping space 192.168.1.1 and run the command. And that should ping your primary router. Now, if your primary router is set to not respond to those pings, then it won't give you a result. But then I'll show you the second step. Mine is, so there's the result. So I'm actually connected to the primary router because it's giving me a ping result. So now that we know that, let's see if we can ping the internet. So I'm going to ping Google. So ping www.google.com, right? And once you've got that in there, just hit enter, or sorry, not enter, but scroll down and click run command. So if your first ping test didn't give you a result, that's not necessarily meaning that you're not on the internet. It means that your primary router is not giving you a result. Okay, it may be disabled, but Google does give you a result. So if you can ping Google and you can ping your primary router, you know you're on. If you can't ping your primary router and you can ping Google, it just means your primary router is not set to return a ping. That's fine. So here we are, it's working just fine. So we know this router is now on the internet and it's now connected to our primary router. Next, we're going to go down here to your network settings because we've got to set that all back to the way it was. So, right-click on your network icon and choose Open and Network Sharing Center, and then go to Change Adapters. Then change your properties for this router, so for this local area connection. So go right-click it, choose Properties. Then we'll go to Internet Protocols version 4. And just change this to obtain IP address automatically and obtain DNS server address automatically. Hit OK and OK. So at this point, I'm physically connected to the router using a LAN cable, but I'm not on wireless, right? But because of the way this range extender is working, I should be able to connect 5 computers to the back of it and be able to surf without having a wireless connection. It actually, in a sense, becomes a wireless adapter in its own. So at this point, let's go take a look at the status of this. So status, so right click it, status, details, and you'll see now I have a different IP address, 147 and 1111 for those 3 settings. So perfect. The DHCP server on the other router is actually giving me an IP address. I know it's a lot of techie talk here, but confirm that that's working and you'll know. Now I'm going to go to speed test here. I'm just going to refresh. And speedtest.net is a great site to go to after you've got this set up, so you can see how good your connection is, right? So at this point, I could begin a speed test. So let's go here. And that's the only thing I'm going to click on this page. I don't want any of this other stuff that they're advertising. So excellent result. I'm getting 20 megabits per second. Beautiful result on this setup. So I have a 30 megabit per second connection, but it's cable, so it varies up and down. So we're connected and it's working just great. So next, we're going to go back down here, right click on your network icon, go back to Open Network and Internet Sharing, change the adapter settings, all right? And I'm going to enable my wireless, and I'm going to disconnect my router, my cable from my computer. So now I'm no longer physically connected to my router. Now I'm connected only through my Wi-Fi. So as you can see here, network is unplugged. So I'm still on the internet because it's connected to my Wi-Fi here. So now we can close this out. And what I'm going to test here is connectivity to my DD-WRT. So basically to my network bridge or Wi-Fi extender that we just configured. So you'll see here that it's showing DD-WRT_VAP. Well, that's the SSID of the range extender. That's what we want to connect to. And of course, you're going to have to put your secure key, your security key, and that is whatever security key you put into that second wireless connection. So I'm going to hit paste here, hit OK, and that would be on this, on the router, this shared key, the lower one. So obviously, I'm now connected to my router, so my range extender. So everything's looking pretty cool at this point. I am now actually finished, but let's just do a speed test here to see if we get the same result. Because Wi-Fi affects everything. Yep, I'm obviously on the net, and everything's working perfectly. All right. And pretty well the same result. I'm very happy with that. That's a very fast range extender. So currently, everything on this router is now completely connected and set up correctly. And that's it. We're fully connected, and that router is fully configured correctly. That's it for my video. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this video and it helped you out in some way, do me a favor, click on the like button right down here. And you know, if you wish to subscribe to my channel, just click on this link up here. And that should subscribe you to the Richard Lloyd channel, or Richard Lloyd USA channel. Okay, again, thank you very much for your time and watching.